Great. Here we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So these are the 4 floor plans. From right to left, it's basement first, second, and third. Basement and first, for the time being, we don't have a final tenant signed up there yet, but for the time being, we think it's going to be one tenant on basement and first. And we'll kind of use the space as it is, but redo the interiors. One thing well, I'll get into that. The second and third floors, you can see the apartments laid out. There's two apartments per floor. This is a basement space. And so we in the back are consolidating the mechanical room into a little bit bigger, smaller space and adding sprinklers to the building. So they're going in this space here. We're sort of up in the air about the handicap accessibility requirements, waiting on the amount of money that will be spent that will trigger handicap accessibility or not. Depending on the outcome, we may have to change the bathrooms somewhat. There's 2 stairs there. You can see in this green space is the proposed space. At the bottom is existing. There's 2 stairs to the basement. They were both added in the 90s. The front one was added by the Haymarket, and the back one the Haymarket did later on. We may get rid of one of those, but the real change we have to make in the back of the building is making an accessible ramp into the space, because now it's 2 weird steps where you go down and you pretty almost hit your head on the door head. And then changing a window on this side. I'll show you in the elevations to door to get into mechanical, and fixing this window here. First floor, that's the Haymarket space in blue, and the video store that just went there in pink. Pretty much stays the same, but we might get rid of that back stair, and it has a fire escape off the back. This is the old layout of the Haymarket kitchen, which will kind of stay in some form, or but it's hard to know how that's all going to play out now. This is the first floor. And so the top plan is proposed. Middle is demo. So you can see these little dotted blue lines are the walls that we're removing. So not many walls. And you can see on the first floor, here's the existing bathroom that we make a little bit smaller. And we create a new entry here. We add a couple of closets. And this floor, we take out this middle wall, but we determined that was not original. You can look at the casings, the window casings, and tell they're not original. In the front, add a closet, add a little HVAC chase, and we keep the 2 main stairs. So the main circulation is retained. The third floor is kind of the same. We create a bedroom in this space here. We create a new bathroom back here. And then this is kind of a big open space that we retained. And in the front, we subdivide this big space here into 2 rooms. So you can see from the demo plan, we have a little bit of demo, not much, but we've gone through this with the Park Service and with our historic consultants. And it has a bunch of interior transoms above old doors. We'll keep all of those. Even if there's an existing door that we aren't going to use, we'll fix it shut and then keep the transom above it. And then we got to build a fire-rated enclosure behind that transom, so that wall would be painted black or blue, so it still looks like you can see through. But all the casings, the original casings and transoms, like I said, and many doors and floors, we keep the existing and refurbish them. The rooftop, we don't do too much to. We've got these 4 condensing units for mini splits. So that he'll be adding electric cooling in there and some electric heat. And then there's a new roof hatch there, and you can see the fire escape off the back. It's a funny little building too, with this odd little alleyway, sort of half alley between the neighboring building and our building. And there's actually windows on that. You can kind of see in this plan here, there's 2 windows in that funny little alley. The alley's not shown right here, but there's a couple of windows there. And the alley's it's fenced off, gated off, that is, has mechanical equipment. It's not a public alley. So first, the front facade, you can see it's got this incredible brick corbel cornice. That's a really beautiful construction. Third floor's got these brownstone segmented arches. And then the second floor's got these flat lintels. And then this is the little bit that you can see of the stone lintel at the first floor. And so this is the old entry of the Haymarket, which we're going to retain for the time being. That was done in the late 90s. And then this is the video store here that for the time being, we retained that storefront as well. Everything you see in green is new. So we're doing new windows in the front. The windows currently are all aluminum and they have these big squared off trim pieces panning that conceal the old brick mold around the windows, the wood brick mold. So we're going to take all that aluminum off, take the panning off, expose the brick mold, refurbish that, and then put in new wood metal clad Pella windows that have a pretty as low skinny a profile as we can get to match the old windows. So those windows that we're using are typically approved by the National Park Service. And we're sort of in the middle of our review process with them. They've sent back some comments. We've fixed them. We've done a walkthrough with our consultants, mostly on interior stuff. So we're like 3/4 of the way down the path to getting our approvals. But the state and the federal reviewers have seen our application and pretty much on board with everything that we're doing so far. And we're following all the National Park Service rehabilitation standards as well. So we'll get tax credits for this renovation. In the rear, this is on the left is existing, on the right is proposed. So you can kind of see in the existing, there's a window here. We're going to change that to a door opening into our mechanical room. And that's really all the electrical service is going to be in that mechanical room. So we don't want someone to have to go down through the restaurant space to get into the mechanical room to serve it to, flip a breaker or something like that. So we needed an outside access to our mechanical room there. So that's the biggest change on the back facade. That and the ramp, we're doing a ramp in the back to this, a new door there. This door right here in the back of the Haymarket, I'm not really sure if that's going to stay or be refurbished. All these doors are a little bit in tough shape. So it's one of those budget questions, if you could spend more money and put in some new beautiful doors, but I'm not sure if that's in the budget right now. There's going to be some repointing on the back of the building. What we'll do is, because the back is a little worse shape than the front, we'll take a mortar sample of a couple places. There's probably like 5 different mortar colors back there. So we'll try to figure out which one was closest to original. We'll take a couple samples of that, send it off to lab, have them test it for the amount of, lime in it and type of sand. We'll get a mix back from them, and then they can do a color match for us as well. Whenever you renovate a building like this, it's been repointed so many times, it's never going to look totally uniform unless you repoint the entire facade. So this project is really kind of a repoint as necessary to fix the grout the mortar that's deteriorated really badly and needs to be repaired. This is that little side alley that I talked to you about. This is the fire escape in the back. And then it's got these funny little windows that are like about 7 feet away from the neighboring building. They're really close. And then, so those windows I think will be replaced, but I'm not positive yet. It's a budget question. This is a roof section, so you can see this is the front of the building, street side. This is the back. And we just needed to show that our mini split condensing units on the roof were not going to be visible from the front street level. That you really can't have any mechanical equipment visible from the street level. So we're so far back in that sloping roof, you'd never see it. This is the rear entry to the basement space, the old Haymarket space. So this is how we're going to do a ramp down into that space. There'll be a door right in the middle of the ramp, and the way you can do that is with the power door opener, an automatic door opener, but it'll have handrails and everything. So that way it doesn't project too far into the space. This is the way it exists right now with 2 steps down. So we have to get under this brownstone lintel right there, which is a trick, and get under the fire escape, which is also a little tricky. So these are our window details for the new windows. This window here is for the flat lintel one in the front of the building. So you can kind of see, if you zoom in, what the current window looks like. So it's got this aluminum panning. It's aluminum window and this big aluminum kind of box panning around the old brick mold. You can't see the brick mold in this drawing, but and then in the section you can see it here. So this is the inside of the building. That's the outside of the building. These are our new windows, and you can see this historic brick mold there, and then there's a wood sill behind it, or head that is, and then our new wood metal clad window will go on the outside of that. We still retain the interior sill, but we have to build a new, built up sill to accommodate our new window there. And then you can see the brownstone sill, and you can see this one is the brownstone head. So that's the flat window. We had to do 2 details. The other one is for the arched window. And it's a funny condition at that arched window. It's not like a true arched window. You can see it's in this section, it's got a flat top, but that flat top is hidden behind all the trim. So the way they achieve the arch is they have a big headpiece on the top of that sash, and then the bottom of it is arched. So in this elevation, you can see that's the bottom part you see, and then extending up beyond it into that behind the brownstone arch is a flat piece. It took us a while to figure out what was going on. I'd never seen anything like that, but apparently it's supposed to be commonplace. I guess an inexpensive way of building a masonry building and an arched window. So the sill details in the window are all the same. The only thing we're changing here is just the arch. And you can see we're going with a 2/2 window. It'll have a small muntin that is as close. Well, I don't think we might have a few real existing windows in the back, but the front windows are not original. So we're just going with a very small muntin profile. And let's see what else. Our finish schedule. So this drawing here represents the flooring. So everything in pink is an existing wood floor. So we're going to refurbish all these wood floors. The dark blue crosshatch is new tile in bathrooms. And what is it? The orange is concrete. Pink is concrete. And this is in the basement. It's pretty much we're not really sure what it's going to be. It's probably there's a little bit of wood. There was some concrete. We may make it all LVT. That I'm not sure if it'll look like wood or not. We haven't gotten there yet. So, but the Park Service isn't really regulating the basement and first floor because they've been altered so much over so many years. So really, it's just the second and third floors that they can guide us in the plan changes we make and the materials we use. But almost nothing exists in the basement or first floor that was originally there. I read that there was originally a bar in the basement. It was called the Rathskeller. I can't remember the name of it. Who knows when that was there? And next door was a tea house to it. And so that was still going to be something like that. This is an example of how this is a bathroom where the bathroom now is this whole big space. And so we needed to subdivide, make the bathroom smaller, and then have an entry there into the apartment. So the way we're doing that is they will allow us to put in a wall here, but we have to do a transom window up high so you can still see through the space because there's some tin ceilings up there. So you want to be able to see the existing tin ceiling and the tin crown that goes around it. So this is a way that the Park Service will allow you to subdivide a space, but still get a sense of, the whole space as it existed at one time. So this is the front facade. So these are the windows that we're replacing at those two floors. I'm not really sure what we're going to do with this Haymarket storefront. I think we'll probably try to dress it up and make it have a little more trim and a little more definition to it. But I think the glass and the framing will stay the same. And the video store, they just opened, not really sure what their long-term plans are, but you can see that this brownstone lintel over the top here is actually really nice, and you can see it on the two neighboring buildings. Maybe in the future that could be, opened up and signage could go back on that, but that's a future thing. Better view of those hideous aluminum windows with the square panning there, and the brownstone. I don't know why they had to put this fire alarm beacon right there in the middle of the facade, but I'm hoping we can move that. It was a hideous thing. The other thing that we've been talking to the city about is our vault. So this glass block vault opens into a little nook in the basement. So so you can definitely see it when you're down there, and the purplish light through those glass blocks filters down through there, and it's pretty cool. But it's in really rough condition. It needs a lot of some masonry repair. And when they do the Picture Main Street project, I think they're looking at every vault along the city street, as I'm sure you know, and they were trying to assess, do we get rid of it or do we keep it? So I think the desire is to keep this, but there's a lot of details that are unknown, as to if we kept it, how is that going to affect the new city sidewalk? Is it going to require some extra foundation work? We just don't know yet. But our hope is we can keep that. But it's not a make or break thing for the National Park Service. And you can see the old pilaster that was there originally. And I think this brick sill at the entry to the Haymarket got cut down, and then a concrete ramp was built there. And then the back is, you can see there's that little low window here that's been infilled above for the gas pipe to go through. We're going to convert that to a door, try to get it as much head height as we can. This window is not original. You can see infilled at the bottom. We'll replace that window, and then I think we need to keep this wood infill, because it's it's right up against that fire escape. So we'll do a nicer job with the paneling there and replace that window and this window. And then this step here will be cut down, become a ramp, and then there'll be a new door in here, and this whole little canvas awning here will go away. And you can kind of see all the different mortar colors. I mean, there's a bunch of kind of white, there's gray, so we have to pick what we think is the oldest and use that. There's a lot of terrible repointing that was done there that I'm hoping we can clean up. And you can see these rear doors are in a little bit rough shape too, so we're hoping we can replace those. And then these are aluminum windows that we actually I think we're going to keep these, but I'm not exactly sure yet. But they're on the back of the building, so they're not as important to the Park Service as the ones on the front. So I think that got everything in the back. The roof just drains off the back into the scudder and the downspout. And you can see there's all kinds of mechanical units, wall mounted, things like that on the back. And like I said, we have to bring sprinklers into the building too. So we're going to have to do some trenching in the back as well. So that's about everything. Any questions?
Thanks, Tom. Yes, we'll open this up for questions from the commissioners. Hannah, looks like you, it needs to be, yes, press it to be green. It may not be on, so underneath, turn it, there's a button. You see that? Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. That was such a nice presentation. Thank you for restoring the building. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Does the front brick get cleaned somehow?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
It is, and it's pretty dirty.
How is brick traditionally cleaned? Do you know? I don't.
Well, the Park Service requires you to do it with soap and water and hand scrubbed.
Really?
You can't use any acids or
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
industrial cleaner. You can't pressure wash it because it'll blow the grout out.
Okay.
So they have a very
It's pretty meticulous. And is that protocol that hasn't been brought up yet in this?
It's still an ongoing budget question.
Okay. Yeah. And then I wondered what the existing species of wood was in the apartments, just the existing wood floors. Don't know. It was
I
just
don't
my
remember if it's
curiosity.
oak or the old red pine. I
Okay.
can't remember right now.
Cool. And how tall are the ceilings in those?
Uh,
The
they're like 9 or 10 feet.
pretty high, yeah.
The third floor has a big sloping roof. So
Okay.
in the back, it's like 7.5 feet. And then
Okay.
in front, I think it's like about 9.5 feet. So they're not like terrible little squat apartments. They're
Yeah.
actually nice.
I bet they feel great. And is there gonna be, the plan is to rent out the cafe space eventually? Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I don't know if I said this early on, but the building was sold, like 6 or 8 months ago,
Mhm.
to a guy who was a former client of mine. And I've done a couple of small restaurants for him, and he's a very good, design conscious person who will do a good job, I think. So.
Great. Yeah, great.
Just
Michael?
quick follow up on that. And so these will be rental units
Yeah.
upstairs?
Yeah, the whole building will still be rental, not condos, as far as I know. So,
Okay.
I mean, for me, the difference in the building code, there's no difference between condo or apartment. They're both the same in the building code. I know there's a different legal description. So,
Right. Just curious.
as far as I know, it's apartments.
Great.
So.
If I could just chime in, my name is Bradley McLaughlin. I'm with Epsilon Associates. I'm the historic preservation consultant. And as part of the historic tax credits, it has to be rental property.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense,
Good.
but not in perpetuity.
For 5 years, at least.
Yeah.
Greg or Douglas, any questions? I may have missed this, so forgive me if I did. Is there an elevator in this building?
No.
Okay, so it's a walk up then?
Yes, the apartments are allowed by right not to have accessible, in other words, vertical access.
Okay.
The basement and first are a little trickier, but they both have at-grade access
True. Yeah.
to them. So there's absolutely no space to put an elevator in there. For
Yeah, I
sure.
wondered about that. And so, again, I may have missed this on the plans. Is there a shared stair that, can we point that out?
So there is a dedicated stair to the apartments that's separate from the rental.
Mm-hmm.
I can find it. You can see, okay, so this is the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
This stair takes you to the apartments.
I see.
And
Okay.
then under the stair is this closet in the commercial space.
Okay.
This stair goes down. That was new and cut into the floor. So they're totally separate entries to those spaces. And you can see in the basement, it had that stepped entry. We're making it into a ramp.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the stair that you enter in from Main Street, it's basically a stairwell that goes all the way up to the upper floors.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can see in this plan here, it's a long linear kind of corridor stair.
Oh, okay.
This little stair right here just takes you up to one apartment
Mm-hmm.
on the third floor. So you can see that if you came up that stair from the second floor, you'd land, let's see, sorry. You come up that stair here and you'd land in this apartment.
Okay.
This back apartment has the continuation of that main linear
Mhm.
stair. And then their second means of egress is out this fire escape that's.
Okay. And then the only other question I had was, it's more, I guess, more of a process question. Since the budget is kind of fluid at this point, or maybe fluid isn't the right word, but there are budget constraints, obviously. How does that affect the Park Service's decision about this? I mean, are they flexible enough so that if you have to make value engineering decisions, that's okay?
So Bradley can
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is whatever we remove, we need to fix with something that complies with the regulations. I
Okay.
think we can retain things that are existing, like those rear aluminum windows. And then I think the same hold for the interior spaces. If there's a big decorative crown, we have to keep it. If it's not salvageable, we have to duplicate it. Same holds true for the 10 ceilings.
Right.
If we had beadboard ceilings and walls, we'd have to save it or duplicate it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Riley, is that what it?
That's
Okay.
correct. And as the project moves forward and plans are even more nailed down, we would submit an amendment to adjust anything that we need to adjust for.
Okay.
If we found more tin ceiling or anything like that along the way, we would amend the project and that would be reviewed again.
And I'm assuming there's some sort of priority order for this, correct? You know, that there's certain elements that would be more valuable to replicate or say or preserve, and others there might be flexibility on or would be lower priority.
Yeah, I think doors and windows and trim associated is top.
Mm-hmm.
The basic circulation of the building is very high priority. They don't change that completely. So it still has a recognizable form to what it was originally. And then you get down into the minutia of, exact pieces of trim, exact wainscoting,
Right.
a whole level of different things, flooring.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. If there are any people viewing this from the outside, they want to ask questions or comment, you should do that now. I don't know if do we have people viewing, Sarah?
There are a few, but they might all be associated with this project.
Okay. Nothing. Okay. Okay. Well, if that's the case, we don't have more questions. We don't have to vote, so we don't have to make a motion. So I think I'll just speak for the others that we are in support of this, wholly in support of this. And we look forward to seeing this come alive in the next years. And I don't think we have any reservations about it that we want to add. Okay. Is there some sort of language in something that we write to you that would be more helpful to you?
Riley can tell you.
We do need a letter of support from you for the state application, which the next deadline is August 30th. We can send a draft if you'd like that you can review and edit as you will, or otherwise we're just looking for your support and letter to Secretary Galvin.
Okay.
And you can mail that to us and then we can include it with the application.
Okay, so we'll be meeting again in July. And so I think having a draft in front of us would be helpful. And then we could just, in case we want to add anything, or we have a month to think about it, we might, as we walked it by the building, front and back, over the next month, we might have something we might want to add. But okay, that would be great. Thank you.
You can send it to me and I'll forward it to.
Okay.
That's fine.
Great. Okay.
Also, can I
Yes.
just ask, what are the particular economic benefits to be derived from Park Service approval on this project?
Well, you get historic tax credit money from the park. The Park Service is a federal arm and the
Right.
state historic tax credit. So it goes towards all the things that you do to renovate the interior.
Right, but the tax credits allow for what? Do they completely cover the cost of?
No, I think, is it 40% in total, right, Riley? Is that what?
For the state application, it's up to 20% of your qualifying expenditures, and for the federal, it is 20% of your qualifying expenditures, which are a good amount of the hard and soft costs. Any new construction or anything like that's not nailed down, basically countertops, cabinets, things like that, and wash machines like that. Wash machines that appliances do not count, but a good chunk of it is qualifying. So 20% of that would be a tax credit.
And it's interesting because it's not only the construction, it's the design as well. So my fee gets 40%.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it certainly makes the projects more feasible. So
Yeah.
it's essential really to make it feasible. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, great. Well, Tom, thank you so much. It was a great presentation, and it's one of our favored buildings, so we want to keep it
Yes.
in good shape.
Thank you.
Thanks. And you're welcome to stick around, but not necessary.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
that. Appreciate that.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Historical Commission's project updates, and I asked Michael to give us an update on the project up in Florence, the Abolition and Reform District, because you have had some conversation with Steve Strymer since we last talked. And do you need everybody need us to remind what that is, what the project is? Do you want to go?
So
ahead, Michael?
it's the Florence Abolition and Reform District, and essentially, building off of the history in that area of the development of a communitarian project based around abolition that starts in the 1840s and then carrying on through various philanthropic ventures in the later part of the century. This is to create a district that acknowledges all the properties in that area that were connected with this series of developments. And so the project had funding. Was that CPA funding? Yeah, it had CPA funding to put together a proposal to send to Mass Historical Commission for their approval and hopefully to be recognized in the National Register subsequent to that. What happened along the way was that the materials that were developed were quite exhaustive. They were very extensive and very useful in certain respects, but in other respects, the district that they defined was far too large and unwieldy in the eyes of Mass Historic Commission. So they came back over a period of 2 years. There was back and forth between the commission and Steve Strymer of the Ruggles Center and the consultants that had been hired on to work with the project, back and forth about what needed to be done to adjust things. Finally, we got to a point where we all agree that a more compact district is viable. Mass Historical seems to be supportive of a more compact district. They really want to see this project go through. But the problem at this point is that not all of the properties in the so one of the things they don't want to do is they don't want to say this is a district and have it be what they call Swiss cheese, where you've got this property, that property, and there's like there's no contiguous group. They want something that is legible to people that will be visiting, people that will be doing work and developing interpretive materials, et cetera. So we're at the point right now where we have a more compact district, but not all of the materials for all of the properties within the district necessarily conform to the theme. And so that work needs to be done. And part of that work will have to be filing of some B forms on particular properties that don't have them. And part of it is work that just needs to be done in reconstituting the narrative about what the district is and why it hangs together as a legible landscape.
Does filing a B form for a particular property then give, like, what is that?
So what that does is it gives us the documentation to be able to say whether that property is significant in terms of the theme that's been defined for the district. Without the B form, well, there's other kinds of documentation, but I think eventually they're going to want B forms for all the properties that are going to be part of the district. So we're at the point right now where the material, Steve is a very energetic soul who's done a lot of work on this project. But we're now at a point where Mass Historical wants to see documentation for the properties that we're now sort of proposing for this district. So a huge amount of documentation that Steve put together has now been shipped off to Mass Historical. They got it and they're going to look through it and sort of give some guidance about where we go next. And at the point at which they received it, because it took a long time to get the materials together in a way that was viable. By the time they got it, Ben Haley, who is the person who's overseeing it for Mass Historical, went on leave right after it came in the door. Not to be expected, but these things happen. So Ben should be coming off leave soon. And once he gets off leave, he'll take a look at the materials that have been submitted and we'll take it from there. So it could be that things move forward in the course of a calendar year. It could be another couple of years. We just don't know. We'll have to take it a step at a time and see how Mass Historical feels. But they're very supportive. Martha and I had a really good meeting with them. They're very supportive. They want to see it happen. Steve is obviously very dedicated to the project. It's just a matter of taking it a step at a time and keep moving it forward. So I'm the contact person to kind of like keep an eye on it. That's why Martha asked me to report. So I'm trying to keep all the players engaged.
So Michael, how many properties did we end up with? Is this in this revised? What we think? Do you know? I mean, roughly.
I think it's like 70 to 80 properties.
Okay. And then do you know how many B forms are needed?
I don't, but I think, well, Sarah might have a better idea of this, but I'm guessing something in the area of 30, maybe, of the ones that were.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what the most recent thing was that Steve submitted to Mass Historic.
Yeah. Okay.
Not
I thought I sent you a copy of he's got folders on every single property. He has like a dedicated digital folder for every single property there. And I can go through and track that stuff down and let you know what the mix is. But it isn't like they're going to necessarily come back and say all 70, 80 properties need to have B forms.
Right.
They may or they may not. They may say that there's just enough evidence here that, we can go forward with this.
So they're ultimately defining the area.
Well,
we're just providing them as much information for them to do that.
We propose the area and then they sort of pass on it. And then the way that they pass on it is to say, well, if we send this forward to the National Register, is it likely to fly? Because they don't want to have something that wouldn't fly with the National Register, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's their job is to kind of be the editor, so to speak, the big editor, to make sure that everything is in shape before it goes to the Park Service for approval. So what I'm hearing you say is that what Steve submitted were digital files, digital folders. Mm-hmm. One on each of, let's say, 30 properties, but we don't know whether you actually synthesized that data into a B form.
He submitted for every single property that's proposed as part of the district. Okay. And so they had asked, they said, well, some of these don't have B forms.
Right.
So with the B forms, they could basically make a determination this fits with the theme or not. With the other ones, they wanted to see whatever documentation you have. So Steve went the full Monty. He's got files on every single property, whether they have B forms or not. And they're wonderful files. Some of them just have amazing material in them. Some of them are more scant, but I think he really dug into it. So.
Okay. Yeah. So we may end up getting back from Mass Historical the need to synthesize the information in each of those folders and put it into a B form. I don't know. I'm not familiar with them.
What is that form process?
It's just a form that they require. It's a certain format, certain information.
Okay.
Their standards for those have really become a lot more stringent in the last, I don't know, recent years. They require quite a bit of information. So it's geographic information, physical descriptions, and a narrative history, and then a bibliography. All of those things usually go into the form.
Okay.
So I guess we'll see what they say.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned because I think because what he's doing is asking them to work a lot more than they
Right.
probably are used to, because they have to synthesize this information.
I think you mean as far as what MHC is doing?
Yeah.
They requested it.
Okay.
So they said, we just want to see, what do you have on this property or that property?
Okay.
And they want to dip in and look.
Okay.
And I think that's
Wow.
what they're going to do, is look at some of those properties and sort of say, oh, okay, I can see why this fits or doesn't fit, whatever, or we need more information about this, or is this one really significant in terms? And I also think they're going to want to, at some point, we're going to have to get to this point where the narrative has to be rewritten.
Right. Right.
So that's another thing. It'll be a different narrative, but I think we can also make it more concise and more focused and make it all sing, but we'll just have to take it a step at a time.
Yeah. Okay. And so Michael, you have a copy of those folders.
I do.
Okay.
Did I share that with
You did not share it with me, and
Okay,
Sarah
maybe
doesn't
I
either.
didn't share
Yeah.
it with you guys because I thought we were going to hear back from Ben first.
Okay.
But I can share
Yeah,
it.
you could send
It's
those to
big.
us. That'd be good. That's fine. Yeah. Do you have a way to transmit that? Dropbox or
can
something?
figure that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should have that and just see what the format of it is, just to be prepared. And I guess the other thing I would wonder, and Sarah, maybe you have a better source of this, or I don't know if the Epsilon people are still on. With all the changes that are going on in Washington and the cuts, and especially to the Park Service has been cut a lot, I know. Do you know if the National Register program has been affected at all, or slowed down, or
I haven't heard
no
anything
idea?
yet,
Okay.
but that doesn't mean that there aren't
No, people
changes
get
either.
laid off, and rehired, and laid off, rehired. Why would there be a problem?
Never mind. Okay. So
If
yeah.
if you wanted to get a brutalist building listed, you might have some troubles. But other than that, I haven't heard of any.
The staircase out there. Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Sure.
So we'll keep up on that. At some point, we're going to have to go back to the consultants and figure out what their role is going to be moving forward, because they're really responsible for this getting finished. And yeah, so, okay. The other project updates, one is the outbuildings survey. And Sarah, what's going on with that?
So Martha and I have been working to identify outbuildings in the Pomeroy Terrace National Register District and the Elm Street District that would make sense to include in a study. We got, was it 35,000 for this project?
I don't remember, something like that.
And clearly that's not enough to do an inventory of every significant outbuilding. So we thought we'd start with those two discrete areas and work from there. And I'm working on gathering that for Pomeroy Terrace.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I looked at the Elm Street district. I mean, there aren't that many properties in the district and Round Hill. And there were, I think, 30 something outbuildings. I was really surprised. And some of them are really quite impressive.
Including carriage.
Yes, carriage houses, garages, sheds. It was mostly garages and carriage houses. And
Pomeroy Terrace has some beautiful outbuildings.
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
And it's the character of them is a little bit different there.
Yeah, very much so.
There's still agricultural buildings left.
yeah,
So yeah.
okay.
It's, if anybody is going for a walk and just, you're walking
I did.
the dog or
I did go for a walk
walking
around
around, like,
Pomeroy. It's amazing. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
scoping it out.
take the time to look at the outbuildings behind
Some of them are
behind
really
homes that you
special.
might not necessarily consider. There's some real gems out there.
For
Yeah.
example,
For example, let's
what
see.
would be an example of a gem?
Right next to the church. If you're behind,
Pomeroy
sort of
Terrace.
behind the church that's under construction and the new condos right off that red barn that I'm talking about, all that fabulous detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something right that's easy and accessible to see. That's pretty unique outbuilding. Yeah.
And there's many of them in Florence as well within the
Yeah.
district that Steve is working on.
Yeah, and in fact, when this Community Preservation Committee reviewed the application for this, I remember one of our members, and I don't remember who it was, might have been Julie. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She lives in a neighborhood, I think in Florence, where she saw this barn come down, and we had reviewed the demolition application on that. And, it was sad because it was a really beautiful building. And so, so that's part of our reason for doing this, to find out the history of these buildings and, be able to pin some sort of historic significance to them. So we know something about them. And then I mentioned the Laurel Park project, which just got funded. So that's going to be a potential National Register nomination for that. But we don't have a lot of inventory for that area. So the first step in it is to go out and actually inventory all the buildings. I think there are like 100 of them in that property. And put together kind of a summary and a proposal for the National Register nomination. So
Who would do the inventory?
we will be hiring a consultant for that. So there are a number of preservation consultants out there that will be contacted. So I'm working on that with Sarah as well.
The Laurel Park was the grant.
So, I don't know.
5,000? 30 or 35?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a nice, that'll be I don't want to say it's going to be easy, but it's a little different from a lot of, National Register districts where you're dealing with individual properties. It's one area. It's very, the boundaries are pretty clear. And I think probably almost all of the buildings, except for the new ones in there, relate to the theme of the, the Methodist meeting, which it was at one time. So it'll be a great way to recognize it. There's a lot of support from the property owners there for doing the project. So I don't think we'll run into any difficulty.
No, the Laurel Park homeowners were really excited.
Really
This is
excited.
something that, in various iterations, they've been batting around for a couple decades and just haven't figured out a great way to make progress with it. But they've offered to open up their archives and work with the consultant as needed.
It's good. Okay. We also, I'm skipping around a little bit here, but I think that's okay. Hannah, do you have anything to update us on with Historic Northampton? What's going on there? Anything interesting coming up? I've received a few things.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that's happening is the exhibits going up. It's going up on July 3rd. So the opening, I think the invitational only opening is happening on the 3rd after in the evening, and then I think it's open to the public after that.
So it's this week.
It's this week.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they're continuing their investigations in the Shepherd House, which they got CPA money for, and looking towards a 2027 historical costume exhibit. So preparing and planning for that. But really, most of the efforts have gone into this exhibit. So it was a short and fast push over the last 5 or 6 months, and it should be pretty incredible. So I hope you all can go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Douglas has been working with them.
Fantastic.
Yeah, helping get it.
Great. Okay. So the other thing, unless I forgot one of our efforts, the other thing that we wanted to have there are two things. One is the Historic Preservation Awards that we had a program for many years and have kind of fallen off, but we want to try to get that started up again. And I know, Hannah, you had expressed a little bit of interest in doing that at some point. I know.
Yeah, it's still sort of on the back of my mind. I actually wanted to meet with Betty to talk about what that sort of award would look like. Because in my mind, I was thinking maybe it would be nice to have some sort of placard for a house, like an actual physical thing. Because I've been to other towns and historical districts that have that marker. And so I wanted to talk to them about what they thought might be appropriate and bring that back to you all. They've just been sort of busy. That was going to be my first sort of approach. But if any of you have any other thoughts or ideas or think that's a good idea, or yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking. But I would like to revive that in some way and steer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would the idea be to have placards going forward, but also placards for past award winners?
I don't know. I guess we could talk about it. Yeah, I think some consistency would be probably pretty great. So yeah. And I don't know who funds that or how that works. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
In the past, recipients were provided with a
certificate.
sheet of paper.
Yeah,
A certificate. But we'd never done anything more substantial than that, primarily due to the cost.
Right. Yeah. So maybe that's something we could get us.
So are you going to suss out the cost on it as well?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Some
start
towns-
exploring it. I know some towns have it. I
some
appreciate it when they do.
Sometimes towns create a standing order with a company and say,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
recipient, if you want to buy one of these, this is how you would do it.
Right. Yeah, I think we've talked about that before, maybe. Yeah. So I'm happy to, I was planning on and happy to do some more research, probably in early fall, I'll have time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Douglas.
Would that list of award properties and so forth be linked to a website or page so people kind of
That's
see
a good idea.
past awards and the current? And if you're ever walking a neighborhood to scan this list, would that be a good way to? And do you think the homeowners
Right.
would be willing to have that listed?
Don't know. I mean, could
That's-
we build that? Sure, we could build that. And the city would have to host it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
right now we do have a list, but it's not coded to, like, you couldn't look at a Google map. You would have to just go year by year and say, what got an award in 2024? Oh, here's the list. Okay, but that's something we could easily
Yeah.
work
Yeah,
on.
That'd be great. Yeah, that could be like a so part of the project. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Okay. This is just something that you reminded me, Hannah. When we established, well, no, it was after this, it was established many years after the Elm Street District was established. At the time, we had a separate commission just to deal with the local historic district, which now we're all one. And we got money we meaning the old commission, got money to put up a marker for entering the district. I've noticed that the sign, at least out by the high school, which is the beginning of it, is really in not great condition. And also, I think that the city's put some other stuff on the sign poles too.
I've also noticed
what it
that.
is.
Yeah.
Now it's like a multi-purpose
Yeah.
sign, and that's really not. Was anything done for Pomeroy Terrace, Sarah, for that National Register district?
Not by the city. The Pomeroy Foundation
Yeah.
provided
They-
a sign, and that is in front of the apartments where Shaw's used to be.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's something we may want to think about as a
We should.
question to upgrade
Yeah.
the local district and also the national, to standardize it, the National Register districts too. So that's something we could think about. And I guess supposedly, possibly apply for CPI funding for that. Because, and actually have a designer, design the signs rather than volunteer labor like last time that I don't really want to talk about. Okay. All right. Is there anything else in terms of efforts, projects that we have going on? There's a lot, I know. And I feel like we're taxing Sarah too much, but.
I have an update on the Northampton New Haven Canal project.
Okay, great.
So we've been working with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and the other communities where the canal was located. So it went down through Southwick and all the way through Connecticut to New Haven. It's already listed on the National Register of Historic Places in Connecticut, but hasn't been in Massachusetts. We've tried a number of times over the years, but have run into some issues. So Pioneer Valley Planning Commission helped us work with the other communities that have the canal and really drummed up interest in it. And we got to a great place with SWCA that was funded through CPA and dedicated funds from all these communities. We thought we were like ready to have it sent to the National Park Service, but then Mass Historic said, actually, there's a few more things we need. So we hired SWCA using a combination of funds to wrap that up and hopefully on the way to get it listed pretty soon.
Okay, great. Excellent. Well, so I guess at this time, I just, everyone saw the notice from Sarah that there was an appeal made on the 10 State 3 Elm Street property. And we didn't put it on the agenda just because it's a lengthy report and that I believe a decision has been made. So, but I know that the information was circulated. It was quite a lengthy review. Shannon did it from Pine Ridge Planning Commission, put together an excellent, I think, report on it. And I guess I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at it. I had my own reactions to what she came up with, and I'd just be happy to hear if anybody had any others as well. So, anybody want to offer any thoughts? Did you get a chance to look at it?
You know, I looked at it. I read the whole thing, and then I read the appeal that was filed by the attorney. And I'm still puzzled by two things. One is I don't recall these folks commenting at our commission meeting, any of our commission meetings. One of them did?
Sarah, do you know?
I believe one of them may have.
But I didn't sense an urgent sense of concern anywhere along the line, which is one of the things that kind of surprised me. The other thing is I tried to look up the address that their appeal was filed from, and on Google Maps it comes up as Smith College. So is it the apartments on the other side of the street that they reside?
So
Yeah.
Sullivan School.
Yeah, Sullivan School.
Yeah.
It's the corner.
Yeah. Old School Commons.
Okay.
Yeah, the old high school. Yeah, high school.
Okay.
Just directly across the street from that. It's
Right.
like across the street from the academy and across the street from the
Okay.
site. Yeah.
But farther enough away so they're not.
That's the far enough away thing,
Yeah.
100 feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. But they're not far past.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, just a couple of thoughts that I had about it. When I thought Shannon did an excellent job, just responding to all of the concerns. There was a lot of focus in the appeal on the historic landscape, which I thought was interesting because that's been a repurposed site. At one point, I believe there was a hotel there and a tavern, like way, way, way back on the canal, because State Street was the canal route. So I think it sat on that site. So if I'm wrong about that, I'm pretty sure that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's a landscape that has history associated with it, obviously, because it's in the middle of downtown, but it's not a designed landscape. It's just a property that's been repurposed. I think she was right in focusing on it not being a historic open space. So I thought that was right. And the other thing I would just say is I was sort of, I know this was a really hard decision for all of us, reviewing this and approving it and going back to the applicant 3 times, making them appear all those times. And they were quite responsive. And I think it was a compromise for most of us. At least I know I can speak for myself. So I was fairly heartened by her comment that she really was lauding us for taking the right approach and being patient and hanging in there and trying to come up with a solution that will work for the developer and work for the city. And it's not the perfect building and probably in all of our eyes, but we don't live in a perfect world.
So to clarify, that's it. Like they made the appeal. That's her rebuttal. It's moving forward now.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not revisiting this
there
project.
may be a process by which it could be filed in court.
Because it seemed like they were going that way. Yeah.
These de novo review, but I haven't heard anything.
Okay. So we don't have to do anything else. Okay.
No.
But they spent $1,500 to file their appeal and they paid an attorney. So they're passionate. I mean, I think that's part of the thing that interests me.
And mention more people maybe adding their names
Saw that.
suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just surprises me because we didn't sense that during the the meeting, I don't think. I mean, we have 4 meetings?
We had
Or we-
4.
Yeah.
I mean, the planning board, the meeting I attended of the planning board, there was a lot of opposition at that, a lot, and very vocal. And, you know, it was in person, so people were standing, you know, a lot of people were commenting on it. But it wasn't so much, I didn't think about the design of the building. It was more about the size, you know, the size and the traffic and the, you know, the streetscape and things that really we aren't, it's not within our purview, and also things that, you know, the zoning allows. So it was a totally different thing.
And the planning board permit was not appealed.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right, great. Is there anything else anybody wanted to bring up? And if not, we will adjourn to for the evening and meet again in July.
July 28th, does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Excellent.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Okay, great. Have a good July. Happy July 4th.
Yes.
Have a good month.